Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nerdish to the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Raffi here, joined by Davian. Davian, this truly is my favorite event of the sports calendar, just in general of all sports. I love my hockey. I love college football. Most sports I really like. But the World Cup is in a league of its own. If I could only watch one sports tournament, I would choose the World Cup, which is crazy to say that. Like, you love the Stanley Cup playoffs, you love hockey. I'm like, yes, but like, something about best on best, nation versus nation soccer just gets me all riled up. You cannot pay me to watch a Champions League or just like a Premier League soccer game. I will fall asleep during that, but something about nation versus nation, World Cup, Euro, AFCON, UEFA, all that stuff, Cotton Bowl, you have me sat. You have me sat. Gold Cup, I'm sat, and I'm excited to watch the game. So, Davian, we're gonna get into our group stage predictions. We won't go fully into the bracket. We'll hold off on that until we get the knockout stage bracket, and then we'll give our predictions about that. But with the World Cup underway, we're gonna give our bracket, or we're gonna give our group stage predictions. But before we do that, as always, Davian, how are you? I assume you're as amped as I am because this only comes around every 3.5, 4 years, and that just makes it more exciting when it does every single time. It's crazy that 3.5 years ago we were doing our 2022 World Cup predictions, which was in fact on this podcast too. So it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah, no, Raffi, it's really crazy how time flies, but I couldn't be more excited for this World Cup. The fact that it's happening in America, we get to experience. I've already been, just given the fact that I live right next to New York City, I work in this New York City. I've already experienced foreigners really in the city for the World Cup specifically. I've seen them going out to the bars to watch the friendlies leading up to the games, which started today as we're recording. There's an energy, there's a buzz in the city that is outside of the Knicks. You could sense that there's excitement. There's World Cup watch parties popping up here and there. The advertisements. Sorry, Raffi. I do need to point out the advertisements. I don't know if you've seen the Nike ad yet. It's absolutely amazing. You have to check it out. I'm incredibly excited, Raffi. There's a lot of storylines leading up into this World Cup. There's a lot of storylines in this World Cup that we will see related specifically to the sport itself and the players. And I'm excited to really get into it with you. And hopefully we don't agree on too much and we make this an exciting watch for you, the viewers. But with that being said, Raffi, how have you been?
Yeah, obviously, as previously indicated, I'm doing great. Very excited to break this down. As you know, and likely most of our viewers are aware, this year tournament has expanded. So now we have 12 groups of 4, which overall makes 48 teams. Don't need an engineering degree to come up with that math or just be able to do that math. If you can't do it, you could just grab a calculator. Don't worry, business majors. I believe in you guys. But anyways, business major slander aside, this is great. And I know we talked about expansion being a bad thing. I think in this context, it's a good thing. If they expand it further, then I'm going to be like a little hold up. Also, Davian, before we get into the predictions, what is this water break mid-half, for both halves? Can we just call it what it is? This is just an ad break that was put in there. I know, I get the fact where it's like, well, we want everyone to be hydrated. We don't want any injuries. We don't want any cramps, this, that. But I was like, okay, maybe it's like a minute long. Nope, they had to go 3 minutes so they could get their ads. And I just think I personally, as an unk, as a soon-to-be unk, honestly, but I'm already pretty unk, especially to you, Davian. I remember when we just watched the full half, and that was one of the best parts about soccer in general, was just the fact that you had no ad interruptions for 45 minutes plus stoppage time, and you could just watch the whole game without being interrupted by any nonsense. But that's just me being an unk.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense to me. This game has been played without water breaks for decades, for hundreds of years, and it's been completely fine. Yes, I understand that, these summers, especially in the U.S., are incredibly hot, and it's hard to play in those conditions. But there's a reason why players at times, run off to the sideline to get a quick water. Or if the ball goes out, they take some time before they throw it back in, right? There's a reason why, soccer doesn't have you play 90 minutes, but you play a total of 90 minutes. There's always additional time. We saw in the last World Cup, Raffi, plus 10 minutes, plus 12 minutes at the end of 45 minutes in each half. I don't understand it. It's simply just a money-driven corruption, and we could spend an entire podcast talking about all the corruption in FIFA outside of all the political things happening as well, and the sport itself and the games themselves. So that's an entire discussion we could have for 40 minutes, I think. But sticking to the game specifically, yeah, the water breaks suck, but it's not the end of the world because Raffi, as American fans, you watch the NBA, I watch the NBA, you watch the NHL, I watch the NHL. Like, there's so many ad breaks in those. And yes, the World Cup is usually a great relief because you don't need to see those. But at the end of the day, I mean, what can you do? It's still the World Cup. But I'm excited to watch. I mean, I watched today the Mexico game, and that did not change my prediction. That was accurate with my prediction, and Raffi, I think that was accurate with yours as well. But it was a great watch overall. Well, great watch. Given
David, we can call it what it is. We don't need to spend too much time on that game because obviously we have 12 different groups that we need to predict in this podcast, plus which of the 8 of the 12 are going to advance out of the third place teams. But
yeah,
that was a very physical game, but I wouldn't say it was a very good game by any means. It was just Mexico really just beating the brakes off South Africa for 90 minutes, and South Africa's physicality, which was also them just kind of playing dirty, was just them being, quite frankly, pissed off the entire time that they couldn't get anything on Mexico. I think they got one shot on net that I can at least recall. Maybe it was 2 or 3, but it was for sure. I know I can only recall one at the top of my head.
Yeah, no, you are right. But it's the best game we've seen so far.
Yes, and hopefully it gets better than that, because if that's the best game that we've seen so far a weekend, then we have some bigger problems to discuss. So Let's get into it. Group A, both of us were right. We both had Mexico versus South Africa. I'm not going to get into the scores, although I did predict scores, and that goal differential will come in later when we're talking about third place teams, but I don't want to get into the granular stuff right now. So we'll just give our 1 through 4, have a little bit of discussion, and we'll just keep things moving. So, and obviously have some discussion, obviously. We don't want to just make this a quick podcast. But obviously, when we got 12 groups, plus 8 of the 12, we have to have the third place discussion. It's going to be a compact episode. It's going to be a good one. So, David, I'll start it off. I got Mexico topping the group with 7 points. I have Czechia getting second in the group with 5 points. South Korea with 4 points, followed by South Africa with 0 points. South Africa, I previously gave a goal, but I stripped that goal away that I had them scoring versus South Korea, not to get too much into goal differential, because they don't deserve it, and they just look completely, they were just not ready for this game at all, and they had no form. But that's me. So I had Mexico with 7, Czechia with 5, Korea with 4, South Africa with 0. David, what are your thoughts? And what did you have?
I'm going to disagree with you. I think Czechia is a great team. They are very physical. They're very direct. But at the end of the day, I do like South Korea over Czechia. I think that it's Sun's last World Cup, most likely. And at the end of the day, this is the team that in 2022 reached the round 16. And I don't think they'll go far, and we'll talk about that in the knockout stages if they make it there. But at the end of the day, I think that they have a great defense, and they're very flexible, especially in the back three, and they're able to counter very well. And because of those factors, I have South Korea beating Czechia, and that's what makes them finish second. I don't know. I did not do the same exact predictions you did. So in terms of goal differentials, so I will kind of go off based off what you've said, but that's kind of my take. But I will be honest, I have not seen South Korea at all play in the lead up to this World Cup, and neither have I seen Czechia really or heard much about either of those teams. But that is my analysis based off my research. Also, for the viewers, if I'm looking off to the side, it's because I have my notes pulled off to the side.
Of course, naturally. But yeah, I had Czechia over South Korea. Czechia obviously with 2 big wins in their respective bracket to get into through the Euro qualifiers. So those are 2 big wins, both I believe at penalties if I recall correctly, and overall versus 2 really good nations as a whole. South Korea, you mentioned their friendlies. I mean, looking like they beat the US 2-0 September 2025. They drew Mexico 2-2 September 25. Then they lost to Brazil 5-0. Beat Paraguay 2-0. Beat Bolivia 2-0. Beat Ghana 1-0 in November 2025. And then recently, late March, lost Ivory Coast 4-0. They lost Austria 1-0 at the end of March. They beat Trinidad and Tobago 5-0 at the end of May. And then recently won 1-0 last week versus El Salvador. overall, some good games early at the end of 2025, and obviously, again, you're not going to see most of these nations' full lineups and exactly who they plan on playing in their exact rotation and their exact 11 during the World Cup. But they definitely didn't inspire much confidence in me going into the World Cup, which is hence why I actually had Czechia and Korea both drawing 1-1, but I did have Czechia versus Mexico also being a draw too, just because I think that they match up pretty well. Mexico's a little bit more run and gun, but I do think Czechia's physicality, unlike South Africa's nonsense, actually could make things interesting in Mexico. But that's also in Mexico City, so who really knows what's going to happen. But any other thoughts on Group A before we move to Group B?
I like Mexico, Raffi. I think this Mexico team, they are they have built up youth, I think, since their last World Cup. And Raul Jimenez has been an absolute star for them. We saw that today, but I think, he has been one. You'll have the youngest player in the World Cup on Team Mexico, in Gilberto Amora. And he has a chance to really be a breakout star as well. I really like this Mexico team. I think they could go far. And I'm excited to watch them keep playing. I think today was definitely not their best performance by far, but I'm excited to see what they could do against South Korea and Czechia.
Yeah, they definitely took their foot off the gas, to say the least.
Yeah,
I'm really...
But I don't get why. Because if goal differentials are such a big factor now, right, when it comes to, and points, if you finish third, like, if they lose, Rafi, to, say, Czechia or South Korea, or lose to both or draw with both, and they end up somehow ending up third, like, you can't take your foot off the pedal anymore. And that's one thing I do like about this World Cup format, where, yes, they expand the World Cup format, of course, to draw in more fans, draw in more money. That's whatever. Point, there's no argument about that. But it prevents teams from letting their foot off the gas because it's the World Cup. Anything can happen. It's not March Madness. We don't really see as many miracle runs per se, but every game, every minute matters now, I think.
Yeah, and I think if you're Korea or Czechia watching that game, you're saying, okay, we're going to have to run it up for South Africa. This is a squad that we can definitely pot 3-4 goals potentially on them. And Mexico did have the capability of doing so. But again, I think for them, they played it slow. They just said, okay, we got the second goal we needed. And I think they're just a little bit more lackadaisical for the most part down the stretch, which, again, is okay. But yes, if it does come back to bite them, we'll certainly be looking at that first game saying they could have definitely gotten 4 goals, especially because South Africa went down to 10 pretty early on in that second half and went down to 9 with at least, I believe it was 10 or 12 minutes left in the half too. So they definitely could have had their way down the stretch in that match if they really wanted it. But maybe things would have mattered a little bit more if this was the third game out of the group. But at the end of the day, we'll see if it wants to bite them. But I just think Mexico has the home field advantage, obviously, playing all 3 games in Mexico. And it'd be very surprising if Mexico didn't top the group. I think this is a very favorable group for them. Moving on, I'll hand it over to you to talk Group B, Davian. So what are your thoughts first before I give my predictions?
Yeah, so let's start off with Switzerland, right? I think Switzerland is one of those teams that is quietly, they're always there, and they're always pretty solid. In the Euro 2024, they took the team that ended up going to the finals, England, to the penalties. They run a very adaptable 3-4-2-1 formation. So their organization's elite. The question is that the problem is that they've never really blown up. They've never really broken through the ceiling. So the question is, if they go on a run, how far could they go? When we talk about Canada moving up to the host nation, this is a country that has never really performed well, or has always performed below their expectations. But with Alphonso Davies working back from a brutal ACL injury, and Jonathan David leading the line as well, I think this is a team that could really do well. They open up in Toronto against Bosnia. I think that's a team playing against Bosnia. That's a team that they could really rack up points on and possibly go far, as well as Qatar. When it comes to Bosnia, they're a very young team, of course. They're super fast, and they went on a miracle run, right? So they're just really happy to be here in many aspects, but at the same time, don't count them out. They played upset against Italy, and they could easily play upset in the World Cup now. With a team like Qatar really I felt like stumbled in. They have not performed well in terms of coming into this World Cup. Yes, they qualified, but they qualified after I think round 4 was at home for them, so they had a home field advantage for qualifications, which usually doesn't really happen, but it just ended up happening that way for Asia. So, is there a redemption arc for them? Maybe, but I really don't think so. So, with that being said, Raffi, how do I rank things? I have. Let me just pull up my rankings because I just want to make sure I get this right. It is. Oh, sorry. I have, of course, Qatar being knocked out. I really do not think that they're a team that has really the capabilities of beating really any of these other teams. I have Switzerland finishing first, though. Canada second. Bosnia third. I think I think this Bosnia team could, get points against some of these teams, and that will help them out later on in the future. And we'll talk about that when we talk about, which of the third place teams make it in. But I think, again, the Switzerland team has really been proven to be kind of very we know what we're going to see out of them. I think with Canada, you're really not sure. And, in the lead up to this World Cup, they have never, at no point have they amazed the experts or the pundits or anybody else. Raffi, thoughts?
Yeah, Canada, they're definitely going to get a win, which is better than last time in 2022 in Qatar. They're definitely a better squad now. They haven't done too much. Excuse me. That's people from Canada telling me to be quiet, but it's okay. I'll be able to fight through it. But Canada didn't impress too much down the stretch overall with a lot of their friendlies, but they're a squad that I think will certainly get a win. Qatar, I agree with you. As you can probably tell from the start of this podcast, I am pretty down on a lot of the Asian nations going into this World Cup. None of them really stood out to me like Japan did back in 2022. Japan typically is the one that I look to. South Korea as well in the past has also been more of a standout to me. But this year, if Korea feels a bit more of a step back, especially just their overall form in qualifiers and also over the stretch of a lot of the friendlies leading into this. Qatar, you're in. Congrats. I don't have them picking up a point in this, unfortunately for them. Bosnia, Switzerland, I got it first. I have them winning all 3 of their games. They're likely going to be low scoring because it's Switzerland. They don't really tend to blow a lot of nations out. I think if anything, they might be Qatar 3-0, 4-0. But I do think both Bosnia and Canada will keep things close versus Swiss. But I just think the Swiss are overall just a more compact, better squad. You hit it the nail on the head, Davian. They play a really good style, a very close, very defensive, good defensive structure. So especially in their midfield. So I have Switzerland first. And then Bosnia and Canada, I have them drawing their match. I really think it's just going to come down to goal differential. And yeah, Bosnia is just the vibes, Davian. Somebody's got to go with the vibes. And I'm not from Bosnia, but I am in America. And it's just the Bosnian spirit, for some reason, is just running deep through my blood. So I'm going to go, I got Switzerland, Bosnia, Canada, Qatar. Canada will get into the third place, but I think they're going to do enough to where they're going to still get in. But I have Bosnia in 2. It's really going to come down to the goal differential. I could really flip 2 and 3, but I don't want to Raffi too much on this podcast. Moving over to Group C, I got Brazil with 9. I have them winning all 3 of their games. I got Morocco losing their 1 game to Brazil, but overall picking up 6 points, enough to continue on. This Morocco squad I don't think is as good as last year, but I still think that they're good enough. David, I see the screen in the background. Yes, absolute banger of a song too. I will have, it's also kind of ironic too that they have this song about taking them to America when some of their matches are in Canada actually. So yeah, it's a little mute, but I think they're just happy to be there regardless. So I have Brazil with 9, Morocco with 6, Scotland, who got in via the qualifier bracket, they pick up a win versus Haiti, and Haiti, I'm really sorry. I have Haiti with 0. They're in. That's good for them, but I don't think they really stand a chance with any of these squads. It's really a 1-2 race, Brazil, Morocco, and I just think Brazil, even though they don't scream going on winning or one of the true tournament favorites, I still think they're Brazil, and I still think they're good enough to where they will get out of the group stage with 3 wins and then also have a good showing in the knockout stage.
Yeah. I believe I have Brazil finishing first, barely, though. I think that this Morocco team is very, very good.
I have a 2-1 Brazil. in my like prediction. I think it's going to be a very close game.
Yeah.
That I just have Brazil edging out just because I think they have more offensively to be able to muster that second goal, whereas Morocco is probably going to play a little bit more, play back a little bit and try to keep things pretty low scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that with Morocco, I mean, they have been one of the best countries coming out of Africa. They have elite fullback play. They are they're much more proactive in terms of possession than they were in the previous World Cup. So really, but they're no longer Cinderella, Raffi. You know what they were in 2022, being on this Cinderella run. They're no longer that. There's high expectations for them, and so they are a dark horse candidate now, going against really a heavyweight in Brazil, which is with Carlo Ancelotti, with the being the coach, the first foreign-born coach for Team Brazil. They have a lot to look forward to. With Vinicius and Junior Vini really being the star player on this team and carrying this, I really think that this Brazil team is going to go very, very far. I have a lot of hope for them. I think that they're very young, they're speedy, but they're very well organized given the coaching that they have. And then when it comes to Scotland, I think that they're, it's funny, Raffi, like, the fact that they're in here, but it's amazing. With McTominay arriving, playing so well, and with the 3-5-2.
The GOAT.
Yeah,
the Scottish GOAT.
Yeah, with the 3-5-2 formation that they have, that's clearly worked very well for them. I really do have them potentially going far. With Haiti, it's so tough. It's very emotional representing a country with going through such a crisis, and we could get to the politics side of it, and every country's coming in representing something. They're representing the population of people, which is what makes the World Cup so amazing, because you understand these players are not just playing for a team, they're playing for a country, which really makes it stand out. But with that being said, I do have them finishing fourth. I don't really have them, I have them same prediction that you have in that case, but yeah, Brazil finishing first, barely. Morocco second. Scotland fights for third spot.
Yeah, and the unfortunate reality for Scotland, too, is you look at a lot of these groups and you see the ability for a lot of these nations that you'd put as like the second, third, and you say, okay, you can squint and say they have a route to get to the playoff. Scotland, again, we'll get into it later. I don't want to preview too much, but it really feels like 4 points is the key for a third place team trying to get in. And obviously there's going to be upsets. You hit the nail on the head, David. There's going to be shockers that we just don't expect. Argentina losing to Saudi Arabia in the first match that they had was as shocking as a match could be. But if you're Scotland, you have to get a point on Morocco or Brazil if you want to have a chance really at potentially getting into that group of third place teams going into the knockout stage. So I know we're already 23 minutes into the podcast. It's gonna be a little bit of a longer one, so bunker down, Davian. We're gonna park it a little bit here, not park the bus exactly, but Davian, let's get into Group D. I have the U.S. at 7.
No, let me start off. Let me start off, Rafi. No.
Okay.
You're not going to introduce the USA like that. Rafi,
okay.
The USA is playing for this game to finally have its moment in the U.S. They are playing for all the legends that came before, Tim Howard, Dempsey. They're playing to truly inspire the next generation of soccer players. And it is soccer, Raffi, after this World Cup. Or it is football. There is zero debate after this World Cup because either the U.S. puts up or shuts up. And that's it. We have good coaching. We have the best lineup. The U.S. has put together the best lineup it has almost ever had. And this is the moment to prove it. Now, with that being said, Raffi, of course, there are flaws to this team. The biggest one, of course, being that our goalie is no longer Tim Howard. It is Matty Ice, though. I love Matt Freese, goalie for NYCFC, but the defense did not play well against no
Zimmerman though. No Zimmerman at least, which is still an upgrade. I
agree. Yeah. This is a team that has to go far, and they can go far. I truly think so. But every game counts. This group, Raffi, in general, on average, in terms of FIFA rankings, is the most competitive group because Turkey, Australia, Paraguay are all very, very good teams. And so, with that being said, Raffi, let me get into my rankings. I have the U.S. winning the group, not just winning the group because they, I think, are the most talented, but also because that they have to. I have Turkey finishing second. I think what Turkey has done, their attacking football is very elite and one of the most elite, I think, in Europe. I think that their stars in Arda Güler and Real Madrid, he's Real Madrid's playmaker. Makes that they have an attacking trio in him, Hakan. Oh man, I can't pronounce these names. Kalhonglo,
something Odu, something Oglu,
and then
something,
Kenan Yildiz.
Something.
So they're trendy dark
the dots
horse
over
too.
the O, the dots over the U. There you go, David. That's your
Exactly.
The C with the weird like.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they're a trendy dark horse, Raffi, in many ways, and I think that they could go far. Australia, they always got a spirit. The Aussies,
oi.
Yeah, and so I will be like silently rooting for them, not when they're playing the U.S. But they have a chance to really get a draw, beat Paraguay potentially, or draw with some of these teams and potentially finish third. But with that being said, Raffi, my official rankings, my third and fourth place rankings, I just want to make sure I get this right, what I predicted. Because I don't want to say something and realize I actually said something different. I have Paraguay finishing third, and Australia fourth. I think Paraguay, they are one of South America's greatest overachievers in many ways. Defensively, they're nasty. And I think that's going to really be tough for a team like Turkey to play against, so they could potentially get a draw there. And I think that, playing against the U.S. in the first game, there's going to be nerves for them. And so I don't think they'll win that game. They could try to push for a draw, but I do see them being able to beat Australia. So with that math, I have Paraguay finishing third. Raffi, what are your thoughts?
I have U.S. first with 7 points, Turkey with 4. In second place, soccer. I will put aside my politics for the greater good of the podcast and the true nature of soccer, as we call it. Even though there's total corruption and so much nonsense in soccer, but I will do my part to leave it out, which is a drop of water in the Atlantic Ocean. But you know what? I will still do my part. And then I have Australia and Paraguay both with 2. Australia, I have them drawing with the U.S. on June 19th, which would make Raffi not happy because that is his birthday, and he would prefer that the USA beats Australia. But again, Australia is just a chaos agent. I have Paraguay and Australia both drawing, but Paraguay, when they're at home, look really good. When they're away, they've struggled a little bit. And Davian, they are a little far away from Paraguay right now, so that's definitely going to be something interesting to see. I also have them Paraguay drawing versus Turkey, so it's going to be a close group. But yeah, I have US, Turkey, Aussie, oi, and then Paraguay. Group E, another group that I kind of want to talk a little bit more about. But Germany, I have with 7 points. I think they take care of business. But Cote d'Ivoire have looked really good. They are absolutely a dark horse. Many are pegging them as a dark horse. I peg them as a dark horse as well. They've overall looked really well. They have some good form. They have some good strikers as well. And it's very easy to see what people are talking about with Cote d'Ivoire and some of their solid games that they've had, some of their solid friendlies leading into the tournament. Ecuador, also really good defensively. They don't allow goals, Davian. They really don't. And
they're the best.
They will shut down most teams.
Defensively in South America.
Yeah, so I think they're going to really make things very interesting. Germany, finally, I have them making out of the group stage. Expanding it and allowing for getting third place teams in is going to help them. But I have Germany with 7, Cote d'Ivoire with 5, Ecuador with 4, Curacao, congrats. You made it. I have them with 0, though. Unfortunately, I have them losing all 3 of their games. But this is a group that I am very, out of all these groups, and naturally I'm excited about all of them. This is a really interesting one to me because I'm really interested to see if Germany can put their past history aside over the past 3 World Cups, 2 World Cups actually, and put together a really good group stage and lead that into a really solid performance in the knockout stage. They aren't as good as that 2014 squad, but they should be able to get past that past and push through. But they do have two really good sleeper spoiler squads, in my personal opinion, in Cote d'Ivoire and Ecuador in their group. That could cause some chaos.
Yeah, Rafi. I'm gonna slightly disagree with you in how you analyze Cote d'Ivoire versus Ecuador. I think the fact that Ecuador is so brutal defensively is what's going to lead them to really making or getting second in this group. I think that yes, offense, striking, scoring goals is what you need to win games. But I think what Ecuador can do defensively could possibly lead to a draw against Germany, and it could lead to a win against Cote d'Ivoire or even a draw there. And they're probably going to win against Curacao. So with that being said, that's my one flip I'll make. Besides that, look, for Germany, they looked great against the U.S. in the warm-up game against the U.S. on U.S. soil, which was a statement, for the Germans that they are prepared. When it comes to Ecuador, they're the trendiest team, really. Nobody wants to play them. If they beat Germany, Rafi, which is possible, they could really be a dark horse to make it to the quarterfinal. Honestly. With Cote d'Ivoire, it's the Elephants' golden generation with Drogba and Toure, and they've never escaped the World Cup group, and so it's a less famous squad, but they're definitely built to go far. And finally, with Curacao, they're the David of the tournament. Every point is historic for them. Just being there is historic for them. And so, yeah, those are my rankings. Germany, Ecuador, Cote d'Ivoire, and Curacao.
Yeah, I definitely think all three, Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ecuador, all have things that play in their favor for at least coming out of their respective games amongst those two other respective squads with a point. And you have what I would assume should be a win versus Curacao. So I don't think that either of these three nations are going to have difficulty getting to the next phase and getting at least 4 points to make things interesting. Let's move over to Group 5 now. Davian, I'll hand it over to you first. What are your thoughts on Group F? How do you think things shape out here?
Yeah, Rafi, man, what a group. Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, Tunisia. Let's go through the storyline for, Netherlands first. They play conservative 4-3, 3-4, hybrid game strategy. Their quality is everywhere, but it's not quite, they're quality players everywhere, but nobody who's very truly elite. It's yes, Van Dijk, Frankie De Jong, Gapco, Depay. They're all very, very good, and some of the best players that Netherlands has ever had. But at the end of the day, Van Dijk is already getting very old, and none of those other players are really screaming elite in that sense. But with that being said, Rafi, their opener against Japan, I think, it's going to be one of the best games in the group stages. It's honestly a coin flip. And why is that? Because Japan has their wing backs overload. They're the deepest. They're the deepest, most European-based squad, almost in a way, that Asia has ever produced. And Japan is openly talking about winning the entire thing because, honestly, in many ways, they could. If they win a knockout game, the ceiling is quarterfinal or beyond. And picking Japan to win this group is, it's very defensible hot take. With that being said, though, Rafi, my rankings for this group are... sorry, 1 second. I'm losing aura points here. Netherlands, the Dutch, Japan, Sweden, Tunisia. I think with Sweden, it's a team that backed into the tournament, but they possess two forwards that every favorite envies. And so in that sense, they're, again, one of those teams that nobody wants them in the bracket team. With Tunisia, it's a solid team They did beat France in 2022 in group play, but at the end of the day, they don't inspire me in many ways. And so that's why I have Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, Tunisia.
Yeah,
But
I have the same as
just
you.
squeaking out, basically, because of points.
Yeah, I really did like Japan kind of going into this. Again, favorite dark horse. And as you mentioned, Davian, it's not a ridiculous take to have Japan over the Netherlands and topping the group there. Japan drew versus Paraguay in October, beat Brazil in October 3-2, beat Ghana 2-0, Bolivia 3-0, beat Scotland at the end of March 1-0, beat England at the end of March 1-0, and also beat Iceland at the end of March 1-0, or at the end of May, 1-0. So this Japan squad has played some solid squads and friendlies and has shown that they are a nation capable of going deep. But yeah, I do have the Netherlands taking that game versus Japan and obviously winning the group. So I have Netherlands at 9, Japan at 6, Sweden at 3, Tunisia at 0. I think Tunisia in a different group could have made things interesting to potentially steal the third spot from someone, but it's just not in this group. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Sweden, but overall, I do think that it's a tough group for them with two nations in the Netherlands and Japan that I see as much more highly regarded, and I would consider them much more higher up than Tunisia. Moving on to Group G, I have Belgium with 9, Iran with 6, Egypt with 3, New Zealand with 0. Sorry, Kiwis. Egypt, you have Mo Salah. They'll get a win.
Are you disrespecting Tim Payne here?
Yes.
Are you disrespecting Tim Payne? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm disrespecting the Kiwis. Yes, wow. I am. New Zealand with 0. Iran, I think that, again, Iran, Egypt, I honestly would be shocked if this is a draw. I just defer to Iran. Playing a very, very monumental game, June 26th, which many people are going to be very, very excited about. There will be plenty of reels and memes about that game for a plethora of reasons that, for the sake of this podcast, we will not be getting into. But I have Belgium topping the group. I think this is a very favorable group for Belgium, and I think that it's like a wide open net, and you have Romelu Lukaku. He's gonna kick it into the open net, right? Like, you can't possibly botch this group. So I have Belgium topping the group. Iran and Egypt can really flip flop for me. I think they're both pretty even.
Wait, so who do you have?
Egypt, so I have Belgium with 9, Iran with 6, Egypt with 3, New Zealand with 0.
No, I disagree with that, just because I think with Mo Salah, what he's trying to prove, 34 years old, he's one of the best players. I'm a Liverpool fan. You could tell by the fact that I've mentioned Van Dijk and Mo Salah as like exact players that I actually know of. I think that Salah can really drag this Egypt team out into the knockout stage. I think that New Zealand, don't disrespect the Kiwis like that. I do have them finishing 4th, but don't disrespect them like that. They have Tim Payne. Tim Payne's the legendary GOAT in the making. With Iran, I think Raffi, I know we said we're not going to discuss anything off the pitch, but I do want to say that this team geopolitically is in such a tough spot that every press conference they have, every interaction they have with the media, on the field, off the field, everything, Raffi, there's always going to be like a dark cloud that looms over them because of everything going on. And so I don't think that they will be ready to face that type of a pressure, and which is why I have them finishing 3rd in the group. One keynote with Belgium. Look, their golden generation of 2018 has come and gone. The players are still there with De Bruyne in his final World Cup, Doku, Lukaku, and Cordius is still in goal. He's Courtois. Absolutely the best goalies. What?
Courtois.
Sorry.
You can't. I can disrespect the Kiwis. You cannot disrespect.
I will not disrespect. My bad.
They have good waffles, Davian. I say that like I've had waffles in Belgium before. Anyway,
look, the last thing I'll say is that demolishing them, what Belgium did, demolishing the U.S. 5-2 in March, shows that their ceiling is extremely high, and so there's an emotion behind this with De Bruyne's last World Cup. They'll stroll through this group without any issues.
Yeah, moving over to Group H, Davian, I'll hand it over to you, but I think this is a pretty.
Yeah, This is pretty straightforward in terms of like what the rankings will look like. Spain with ease, Uruguay second, Saudi Arabia third, Cape Verde fourth. Congrats Cape Verde, you made it. Very cool.
They're a nation.
They're there.
With a
With a
soccer
storyline. Yeah. Saudi Arabia, like you had that upset against Argentina in 2022. They ain't gonna go much further than that. Uruguay, it's a great team, very talent worthy. Gonna be a great team to watch, especially the game against Spain. But Spain, Raffi, is the juggernaut. I mean, they are
100%.
the favorite in so many ways, we could talk about Spain, and I think we'll talk about Spain more in the knockout stages when we go into there. But Spain's a fun team to watch.
Yep, there's a reason why they made it as far as they did in the Euros in 2024. Hint, hint. And yeah, they're gonna take care of business here. Uruguay not as scary as they have been in past years, but they're at least going to take care of business in the groups, and then they'll probably at least win a game or potentially 2 games come the knockouts, depending on how that all shapes out, obviously, with all the math. Group I. Oh boy, Davian. This is a fun group. I have France with 7, Senegal with 6, Norway with 4, Iraq with 0. I feel really bad for Iraq, a country that has gone through a lot, and they will also now go through this group of death, which honestly is probably one of the better things to happen of recent time for Iraq. And that's a joke, but also like semi-serious too. It's really sad. But Senegal, maybe not as good as they have been in the past years. Sane is back. That's obviously a big addition. They obviously didn't have him back in 2022 during the World Cup. Norway's first appearance, it's the 90s. Holland, he's going to put up a performance 100%. Obviously, he's been motivated, and I'm sure he's just getting really excited for this. He's definitely going to put in at least 3 goals versus Iraq in the first game in Baston. And this French squad, there's a lot of drama coming out of them. It'll be interesting to see how things unfold over the duration of the World Cup, if this winds up capsizing them, or if it's just people making noise just to make noise, which has certainly happened before. We've seen tumultuous locker rooms and tumultuous teams go on deep runs and wind up winning championships regardless. But I have the French with 7, Senegal with 6, Norway with 4. France, that first game versus in New York, New Jersey is going to be such a fun game between France and Senegal. Why is it at 2 o'clock Central Time? I do not know why. And yeah, I actually have Norway picking off a point versus France in a draw, in a 1-1 draw in the third match day, just because France is going to have that first place already pretty much captured going into the third match day. So I think they might be resting some guys, and I think Norway will be able to capitalize, potentially even still win versus France in that third one.
Yeah. Raffi, I have France first, Senegal second, Norway third. I think that this is the group of death in so many ways. Iraq, they held their own to an extent against a Spain team that was rotating their squad in the June friendly. So there is something to be said about that. Don't fully count out the Lions of Mesopotamia. That's their nickname, Raffi. Pretty sick.
Yes,
nickname.
yes. I as a Middle Eastern, I am familiar with Iraq, Baghdad, Babylon.
It's pretty fire. But it needs to be said, Raffi, that Holland was insane in the qualifying. I mean, he was
100%.
just. The scoring was on such a historic rate that he's a Golden Boot favorite, Raffi, even though pundits don't think Norway is going to go that far. And so, very impressive. Be very impressive. All those games will be amazing to watch. With that being said, Raffi, let's move on to a group that will be fun to watch, but probably not as fun, with Group J. I'll pass it over to you first. I think we could kind of go through this one pretty quick. But what are your predictions?
Yeah, I have Argentina sweeping. I don't see them having much issues with the other 3 squads. Austria and Algeria, I have them drawing, so I have them both picking up 4 points. Austria just purely based on goal differential. How close you give versus Argentina is really going to come down to, is really going to decide who gets second place, in my personal opinion, in Group J. So I have Austria coming in second, Algeria also with 4 points coming in third, and then Jordan in fourth. And before anyone starts saying that LeBron's better than Jordan, I don't see LeBron or whatever the country's name is in this tournament. I just see Jordan, which clearly cements Jordan as a better basketball player all time. But Yeah, David, unless you disagree, I don't think there's too much really to debate here. Austria and Algeria, I'm excited because those are two nations that I will be quite honest, even doing some research, I still don't really know what to expect from them. And I think that's going to be just a fun game of that people might overlook and just say, well, it's just whatever, it's just a nothing game. I'm just going to focus on work, which is, okay, you're employed, we get it. But I'm actually really excited to watch that game and see what winds up unfolding. I think it's going to be a fun game.
As am I, Raffi. Sorry, my mic was off for a second, as per usual. I think,
What has that ever happened?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to expect from Algeria and Jordan. I feel like Algeria might be talented enough to beat a team like Austria if Mahrez in his final act turns things around, and Amora's breakout pace as well. But when it comes to a team like Jordan, I really don't know what to expect. They're first timers with a puncher's chance in a single match.
It's a group of life. I see it as a group of life. Even though Argentina is going to beat all of these three nations, in my personal, we'll see. There's obviously stuff that can happen, but I do see it as a group of life for all three of those nations, nations, where they truly do have a chance, an opportunity here to advance to the knockouts. At least two potentially.
I agree, Raffi. And then in terms of Argentina, I mean, it's the last dance for Messi. What else is there to say?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's it. That's really
exactly.
it.
All right. I'll hand it over to you for Group K, Davian.
Do it. Okay. Portugal first, Colombia second, and then I have. Man, this is where I get fitchy. I forget what I had. I have my bracket that I made on my phone, and then I have my the notes that I have, but my notes and my bracket don't always match. I have Uzbekistan third, and I have the DRC fourth. Let's get into it. Portugal. I mean, it's Ronaldo's farewell tour, which will have its scenes and drama, of course, as well. But it's they're a great team, all put together. I don't really need to go into their tactics. And the players around him are great. It's one of the best squads Portugal has put together for Ronaldo in the World Cup. Colombia, James Rodriguez, it's his farewell tour. Can he turn back the clock? They're a popular dark horse, and I think Portugal versus Colombia is going to be one of the top 5 group games, I think. And if James Rodriguez has one more magical month in him, the ceiling could be as high as the quarterfinals for them. For a team like Uzbekistan, it's the first ever World Cup team. They're defensively incredibly organized and very athletic, and they're very capable of being frustrating to a very fast-paced, aggressive Colombia team. And so that's how I think that they finished third. The DRC, they come back after 52 years of not being the World Cup, and they're very athletic, and I think that's that's how they can score points. But this is where my notes get a bit rough, Raffi.
Yeah, I'm not expecting us to do a 10-minute breakdown on this podcast talking about the DR Congo versus Uzbekistan, Match Day 3. I have DR Congo over Uzbekistan.
That's the game. That's the game, Raffi, if you didn't know that.
It really is. I really know. Colombia, Portugal is going to be on at that same time, but real ball knowers are going to be watching DR Congo, Uzbekistan instead of that game. And Colombia, Portugal in Miami as well, where there is a very high, if not the highest density of Colombians in the U.S. in Miami, and then you have Ronaldo as well. Those tickets are going to be so expensive, and that's just going to be an all-time classic. You're absolutely right, David. I think it's going to be one of the top 5 matches in the groups. And I do agree with you. Portugal first, Colombia second, but this is where we differ, and we can have a whole 15-minute long discussion if we really want to right now. But I think we have other things to talk about as well. But I have DR Congo in third, and then I have Uzbekistan in fourth. 9-6-3.
No, Ralph, you're gonna justify that. Why do you have DR Congo over Uzbekistan? No, let's see.
Because unlike Uzbekistan, DR Congo had to earn their spot, winning a playoff game to put them in this scenario. So clearly, they're already in the playoff mode. They've been fighting, scratching, and clawing over the past couple months to get to this point, and I think they're going to show up to Atlanta, the ATL, and say, you know what, that is our third place spot. We're going to take it, and they're going to beat
Uzbekistan has somebody in the Prem. I don't think DRC has anyone in the Premier League.
Davian, all I know is Saudi Arabia beat Argentina last year, so me picking DR Congo over Uzbekistan is not the craziest thing that would happen.
I think it's pretty crazy, Raffi. And I can't wait for you to be wrong. All right, let's move on to Group L, because you clearly don't know ball. For 50 minutes, you knew ball, and then you chose DRC over Uzbekistan. Diabolical. Disgraceful. All right, Group L. I'll take this over. For the viewers, apologies, you have to listen to this man right here. Let's talk about England. Tuchel's squad announcement was nationally controversial, more than Keir Starmer. Cole Palmer being out, Phil Foden, and Morgan Gibbs-White, who's in form too, all being left at home is insane. I don't know how Cole Palmer is not in this lineup, but we can argue about this for ages. If England wins, though, he is an absolute genius. If they lose, he's getting shipped out. It will be the angriest the English fans would ever have been. Harry Kane is chasing the only thing that he is missing, which is a World Cup championship. Jude Bellingham, Saka, Rice. It's an absolute squad, Raffi, that will go very, very far. And according to Tuchel, this squad is really built around, rather than bringing together the best players, more so bringing around a squad. And yesterday against Costa Rica, we saw that in their 2-0 defeat over win over England's 2-0 win over Costa Rica. We saw them, play very well. With that being said, Raffi, let's move over to Croatia. They are the ultimate, dad and old guys' favorites. With Modric having his last dance now. England versus June.
Feels like you've been saying that for a couple World Cups now, Davian.
Yeah, no, he has been. England versus Croatia on June 17th is going to be one of the best games, I think, as well, in this group stages. It being a 2018 semifinal rematch. I think that this team is, it really depends on the youth and how much they step up, because really the old guard from 2018 that went so far is no longer really as there or as prevalent. And so with that being said, though, I do have Croatia finishing third. I have then...
Wait, you have Croatia third?
Sorry, second.
Okay.
Second, yeah.
That was almost as ridiculous as you having Uzbekistan in third. That was almost...
Almost as ridiculous. I think what you had was a bit more ridiculous, not going to lie. With that being said, Ghana, I have them finishing third. I think that Kudus is a breakout superstar candidate for them, Mohamed Kudus. He's one of the most fun ball carriers in the world to watch, if you watch any of his highlights. And they're a real threat, and they could beat a giant someday. That could be England or Croatia. In terms of Panama, it's their second World Cup. In 2018, the last time they were there was in 2018. They're hunting for their country's first ever World Cup point and win, and they're capable of frustrating a team like Ghana. But with that being said, I have England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama, with Ghana having the chance to make it out into the knockout stages. Raffi, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I have England. Is it coming home? Probably not. Yes. I know. Stick to hockey. All the people watching this video are likely commenting right now. I read your comments. I know exactly what you all are saying about my ball knowledge. Anyways, I agree with you. we're backing up, David. I agree with your assessment. Croatia, this definitely feels like they're kind of on the downturn now. They're not as in form as they've been the past couple times, where it's like, okay, this is a squad that can certainly go on a deep run. I certainly think that they can win a round or two, but I don't have them as a dark horse or one of the top nations as we've had them slated in past years. They're definitely a more older squad, as you can see, but I do think they're going to not have a lot of issues with this group. I do think that they will get second. I have them being both Ghana and Panama. Ghana picks up the win versus Panama. Panama, congrats, you made it again. Thanks for coming. All right, Davian, we've gone through 12 groups. We've been talking for almost an hour now, but we still have the third place. So, thanks to this website, this groupadeath.dg website, highly recommend if you're making your overall predictions. I just found it on the internet, and it literally ranks all of your top 8, etc. So based on all the scores that I entered, Davian, I have my top 8 being Ecuador, Norway, Korea, Canada, Algeria, Sweden, Egypt, Scotland. And I have DR Congo. We're not going to hash this out again. We'll say that for a special edition of the podcast where we break down DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, Australia, DR Congo, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, Australia, repeating it once again, as the 4 teams missing out. And this is largely just based on who I think is going to have enough points to where that third match may not matter. Maybe one of these squads that gets in can steal a point there. And those are my 8, Davian. What are yours?
Yeah, mine are Norway, Cote d'Ivoire, Sweden, Czechia, Paraguay, Scotland, Bosnia, and Egypt.
Okay, so we overall have some flip-flop here with some of our 2s and 3s, but overall we have pretty good coverage.
I also just realized, Raffi, I messed up my bracket online. I put New Zealand over Egypt.
Okay, that's perfectly for
And then I also put New Zealand going to the knockout stages. I was too inspired by Tim Payne. And Tim Payne,
Too much aura.
Too much aura.
But yeah, all right. So we've done all of our group stage predictions. Davian, it wouldn't be an overall. We're not going to go into the knockout stages right now because there's so much that can change with this.
Absolutely not.
And I think most listeners who struggle to listen to us yap for 30 minutes are definitely getting ready, if they haven't already clicked out of this video, are definitely on the fringe of clicking out of the video. So let's just do our final prediction, and then we'll call it a show.
Wait. Raffi, we should say it at the same time. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Spain.
Spain, Argentina. With Spain winning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just had the winner, but okay, cool. All right, so we both have Spain winning.
Yes.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Raffi, I think this is one of the best squads. I think this is one of the best squads we've seen in a long time. How well they're stacked together, their chemistry as a team.
Euros, Nations League, like Spain has just been on an absolute run lately of just winning every single tournament leading into
The only thing that I will say is that, if Yamal isn't fully healthy, because, there's questions about, lingering injury, that might play a big factor. But besides that, I really think that it's going to be Spain.
Yeah, the big hiccup I see is if things continue to pan out as I predict, I have Spain in a key matchup versus one of the best in the nation, and out of all the nations, the USA, and that's going to be a hard one because of the good old American spirit, so that'll be a tough one for them. But if they can make it past the Americans, then I do think that they'll have a pretty easy rest of the way after taking on the French, who are notoriously known for just giving up and forfeiting immediately with any attack and any pressure, and then Argentina, which Messi will be disappointed once again, but hey, World Cup. So that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We had a lot of predictions, etc. So let us know in the comments below what your guys' thoughts are. Really, the big thing is, who do you agree with on DR Congo and Uzbekistan? Because I think that was the hottest topic. And Davian, I honestly will say this off the cuff. I think that was the most heated we've got on the podcast in our 3-4 years of doing this podcast. So let us know in the comments below, if you watched the full video, who do you have, Uzbekistan or DR Congo,
it's
and why?
The game.
The game of all games. So
the game of all
for Davian,
games.
I'm Raffi. We hope you enjoyed. Enjoy the World Cup. We'll be back shortly in a few weeks to talk knockout stages. But in the meantime, again, enjoy. For Davian, I'm Raffi. Have a good one and enjoy the World Cup. See ya.
Peace.